We're going to pull out a new drip tape for this row. This is a 60 foot row. Looks like we have a valve right there. That's good. Perfect. Might go ahead and spit that water out of there and wash the barb just a little bit and connect it up. Yeah, that looks nice. Okay. I come back here and cut this to length. There's about 10 feet between the center of the blackberry row, actually 12 feet from the center of the blackberry row to the center of the raspberries. But since the raspberries are growing 2 feet this side of center, we've got 10 feet here to fill in this year. That gives these squash plenty of room. Plenty of room for spaghetti squash, zucchini. We can walk through the squash and down the row and not hurt the plants. We need plenty of room for those squash to sprawl. And they can expand and make as many squashes as they want. Use scissors to cut this off, right about there. Then we'll plug the end of it, put that through the drip tape, fold it back 3 times, 2 or 3 times, and pull the plug back onto the end of the drip tape, like that. Then we'll put a landscape staple in the end of the drip tape to help hold it there. Lay right down in there like that. I forgot I had some squash. If I remember right, I have 3 or 4 spaghetti squash in the greenhouse. I'll go grab those. No, they're not. They're pink banana squash. We got. So grab the. You can see little starter pink banana squash. We'll plant those out there. And even though this is just as dry as can be, because of the perlite, the leaves look just fine. This is just as dry as can be sitting out here in the sun. But the perlite, or the vermiculite, looks like vermiculite, or a mixture of vermiculite and perlite in this mix has allowed the roots to still see the moisture in the vermiculite and perlite. We're going to plant these squash down here with the pink banana squash. Thinking we can separate these double plants like that. Space them about 18 inches apart, like that. Just a little deeper than they were in the thing so that they'll stand up. so that the leaves don't lay right on the ground. The next job is to go back around the corner of the shop, right back here, and hook up some irrigation lines to those poor broccoli that we've been watering by hand, and also a row of heritage raspberries and some black raspberries. Okay, this part of the garden hasn't been well maintained this spring yet. We did a lot of work. We planted 2 big rows of broccoli there. We brought some bees home, and we did clean this up a little bit, but there's a long ways to go. So in this mess here, the main line of the irrigation system that comes from the main garden comes back around the corner here. This is looks like an 80 PSI poly line. 3/4 inch poly line. You can see it has valves on it. We used it last year. Let's see if it's connected. Yeah, it's working. Just hasn't been turned on around this direction, so some of the sediment, some of the dirt is coming out of the valve. Some of the air is blowing out of the valve. It's pretty dirty. Yeah, there's a lot of sediment in that. That's just brown with dirt. Turn them all on and see if we can clean that sediment out of there before we hook up the drip tape, because the sediment will go right down the drip tape and plug it up. Let that run. Let's turn this one on. So as we've been hooking up the irrigation system, the pressure hasn't really been up to the normal operating pressure. So I just went and turned it up to a full 20 pounds on the main line, and then of course past the pressure reducers we have 10 pounds pressure out here. And that will allow some of this water to come out a little better. You can see it's moving now. That'll clean out the lines. Yeah, it's a little bit plugged apparently. We can work that valve and see if we can get a little more water to flow. There might be just a little bit of sediment in the system. In fact, I can see right there in the end there's a little piece of wood over there. That's better. That looks nice. Let's check this one. Oh, that's pretty plugged. Yeah, that should be operating a lot more pressure. So we may end up taking the plug off the end here. I can take this plug off and let it all wash out. See if I can get it off here without some fancy equipment. Oh, brown water. Yeah, that looks nice. Get all that cleaned out of there. We can tap this main line and see if we can move some of that sediment on through. Make sure there's no little pieces of grit sitting down in the end of this poly line that can get out through the valves into the drip tape. Okay, plug that back up for now. We'll see how well these do. That looks pretty good. How's this one running? Go. That's good. That's got good air, good water flow. That's got decent water flow. Turn him off. That's got good water flow. Okay, so we'll lay this back out this other direction here. And since we're going perpendiculars to the rows on this side. We'll take drip tape down that direction for each of the broccoli rows and for this raspberry row. And I can use this as the right length to go all the way through the raspberries, all the way through to the Bristol blackberries. Will that reach? I think it'll reach enough. Okay, that one's hooked up. These are the tools that we use to close the round poly mainline. This is for 3/4, and these come in varying widths. So if it's an 80 psi, it's going to be this size. If it's 125 psi, the wall of the poly tubing is going to be thicker, so it'll need to be a little bit bigger ring, and they make a little bit bigger ring. And then this tool grabs that and squeezes it tight around the poly line, like that. I think before I start running the poly line for the broccoli, I'm going to weed some of that and do some cleaning and make sure that that looks a lot cleaner before we lay out the irrigation lines.